The night was dark and cold, rain falling in heavy sheets across the empty streets. Neon signs flickered, reflecting on the wet pavement. A lonely hum of electricity mixed with the distant sound of dripping water. A young girl stood under the weak light of a street lamp, her small frame shaking not from the cold alone but from fear. She was unlike any human in the city. Her skin glowed faintly in patterns that changed with her emotions, shimmering blue and silver across her arms and face, yet she wore a tattered cloak, hiding herself as much as she could, for she knew the world outside was dangerous for someone like her. She had never seen a city like this before. Towering buildings reaching into the clouds, cars moving like silent shadows. Yet no one stopped to help, and she had nowhere to go. She looked at the device in her hand, small and strange, a combination of glowing buttons and symbols. She hesitated, wondering if anyone would come. Would anyone understand her? She pressed it carefully, activating the signal. The sound echoed softly, a ping that traveled into the night calling for help, calling for a human taxi. She watched the street nervously, eyes darting to the shadows. At the edges of the neon lights, movement caught her attention, but it was just a stray cat. And then, another movement, faster, sharper, making her heart race. She realized she was not alone. Someone, or something, was watching her. She swallowed hard, wishing she could disappear, but there was no time. She had to move. A rumbling sound approached, growing louder until a taxi appeared from the distance, its headlights cutting through the rain, reflections bouncing off the wet pavement. The driver's face appeared, partially hidden under a hood, curiosity in his eyes. He slowed down, unsure, and then stopped. The door slid open with a hiss, and the alien girl stepped forward cautiously, her glowing patterns pulsing brighter. She climbed into the back seat, careful not to touch anything unnecessarily. She didn't know what humans expected from her. She didn't know if she could pay. She only knew she needed help. The taxi smelled faintly of oil and wet fabric, comforting in a strange way, as if it was alive. The driver peered in the rearview mirror, trying to understand her. "You called for a ride?" he asked, his voice cautious, almost wary. She nodded, unable to speak in human words, only gestures and small sounds escaping her lips. The driver noticed the faint glow on her hands, the tiny lights floating just above her skin. Mesmerizing and strange. He had never seen anything like it, and for a moment he felt both fear and curiosity. The girl reached into a pouch at her side, holding something tightly, something she seemed ready to offer as payment. He leaned forward slightly, eyebrows raised, wondering what she could possibly give him. Money would not work. She had none, but she seemed determined. There was a weight in her gaze, a story behind her eyes that demanded attention. The rain continued to fall, the sound almost deafening inside the cab, creating a cocoon around them. The city felt distant, as if time had slowed. The girl whispered softly, her voice barely audible yet carrying urgency. "Please, just take me far from here." The words were simple, but the emotion behind them made the driver pause. He glanced at the street outside, shadows moving strangely in the rain. He had a choice. Drive away, ignore the warning, or take her with him. A chill ran down his spine as he realized there was danger nearby. Faint lights flickered in the distance, figures moving quickly, almost too fast to see clearly. He could not tell what they wanted, only that they were coming for the girl, and perhaps anyone who helped. The girl's small hands glowed brighter now, the patterns swirling in complex shapes. A silent plea, a warning, a promise. He did not understand her language, but he understood her intent. She needed him, and whatever was chasing her would not hesitate. His chest tightened, adrenaline rushing. The moment stretched longer than it should. The taxi engine hummed, ready to go, waiting for a decision. Outside, the rain poured harder, making the night darker, the city quieter, except for the sound of distant sirens and the occasional splash of tires on water. The girl looked at him with eyes wide and fearful, and he knew, in that instant, that this was no ordinary ride, no ordinary passenger. This was a crossing point, a choice that would change everything for both of them. Finally, he nodded slowly, a small gesture but enough to tell her she was not alone. She exhaled, a mix of relief and anticipation. The taxi shifted, moving forward into the rain-soaked streets, neon reflections blurring past, the girls glowing, skin casting strange light across the cab's interior. Shadows danced on the walls. The sound of the city wrapped around them, hiding them, and revealing them at the same time. Suspense lingered, for the chase was not over. The night was only beginning, and every turn, every shadow, every distant sound could hold danger or salvation. The driver glanced at the glowing girl, unsure of what he was about to face, but certain of one thing: his life, and hers, would never be the same again. The taxi moved slowly through the rain-slicked streets, the hum of the engine blending with the soft patter of water against the roof. Inside, the alien girl sat quietly, her hands resting on her knees, glowing faintly in shifting patterns of blue and silver. The driver kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, curiosity and caution etched across his face. He had never picked up a passenger like her, someone clearly not from his world. Her eyes reflected the neon lights outside, wide and wary, and yet there was something in them that made him hesitate, a silent plea, a trust he could not ignore. He tried to make conversation, asking simple questions about where she was from, where she needed to go, but she only shook her head, her fingers tracing small shapes in the air, glowing symbols that pulsed softly. The driver frowned, unsure how to respond. The girl's language was foreign, her gestures strange, yet there was a rhythm, a kind of communication he could feel without understanding. The taxi passed through narrow streets, the city lights flickering in puddles, creating distorted reflections. The girl leaned slightly forward, a soft hum escaping her lips. It sounded almost like music, but it carried weight, emotion, and he realized that her payment might not be something he could hold or touch. A strange feeling crept into his chest, a mix of awe and fear, and then he noticed a shadow moving across the street ahead. Someone or something was watching, keeping pace, staying in the darkness just beyond the streetlights. The girl's hands glowed brighter, tiny sparks of light drifting around the cab, mesmerizing and beautiful. She reached into a small pouch, producing a handful of tiny glowing crystals, each one vibrating with a gentle energy. The driver leaned closer, his breath fogging in the cold night air. He had no idea what they were, yet he could feel a warmth spreading in his chest. A strange connection forming. What are these?" he asked cautiously, and she looked at him with wide eyes, her gaze almost pleading. She could not speak his language, but her intent was clear. These crystals were her offer, something far more valuable than money, something that could not be stolen, bought or sold, only given freely. The taxi moved faster now, the shadows behind them shifting, figures emerging briefly in the rain, then disappearing, the girl's glow pulsing in response, a protective rhythm that seemed to warn, guide, and shield. The driver's heart raced. He had never felt so alive, so aware. The city had changed. The rain, the lights, even the hum of the engine seemed different, infused with a strange energy he could not name. The girl leaned closer to him, pointing to a narrow street ahead, urging him to take a turn he would not normally consider. The instinct to obey battled with fear, but something in her glow, in her quiet confidence, pushed him forward. As the taxi turned, a loud crash echoed from the street behind. A vehicle had skidded in the rain, narrowly missing them, and in that instant, the driver realized how close they were to danger. The girl's glowing hands pulsed faster, almost as if she was calculating, warning, protecting. He could feel her emotions in the vibrations of the crystals. It was as if she was saying, "Trust me, we can escape, but you must listen." He swallowed hard, gripping the wheel tightly, every sense alert. The city blurred past in streaks of light and shadow, the rain making the night both surreal and threatening. The girl moved a hand toward the back of the cab, revealing a small holographic map. It projected faintly in the air, glowing lines marking safe routes and dangerous zones. The driver's eyes widened. He had never seen technology like this. It was not from any human world he knew, yet she navigated it with ease, guiding him through alleyways, hidden streets, and bypassing checkpoints where their pursuers might be waiting. The suspense in the cab was tangible, Every turn, every flickering light, every sound could mean discovery or safety. The girl's presence was calming, yet electrifying. She was both fragile and powerful, a paradox that kept the driver on edge. Hours seemed to pass in moments, the taxi moving like a ghost through the city. Finally, the girl relaxed slightly, her glow softening, signaling they were temporarily safe. She extended a crystal toward the driver, a silent gesture of thanks, a bond forming between them. He hesitated, not sure how to respond, and then realized that he had been paid, not with money, but with trust, courage, and a glimpse into a world humans were not meant to see. A sense of wonder filled him, mixed with fear. He understood that his life had changed. This ride was no longer ordinary. It was a crossing, a step into a story bigger than he could imagine. The rain began to ease. The neon city glowing softly in puddles and reflections. The driver glanced at the girl, her eyes meeting his, and for a fleeting moment, words were not needed. The connection was enough. Suspense still lingered in the air. The shadows of pursuers, the unknown dangers, the mystery of her world, all waiting just outside the cab. And he knew, deep inside, that the night was far from over. But he was no longer just a driver. He was part of something extraordinary, something human and alien intertwined. A story that would not end with the dawn, but only continue. The rain had slowed to a steady drizzle, but the city still shimmered with neon reflections, puddles rippling. With every drop, the taxi moved carefully through narrow streets, each turn a calculated choice. The alien girl leaned slightly forward, her glowing skin faintly illuminating the interior of the cab. Her hands traced invisible patterns in the air, and with every movement, the crystals she had offered earlier vibrated softly, casting tiny streaks of light across the dashboard. The driver kept glancing at her, trying to read her expressions, but they were unreadable, a mixture of fear, urgency, and something else. Something deep that seemed almost human, he realized. He was following more than directions. He was following intuition, guided by her presence. A sudden shadow darted across the street ahead, and the girl flinched slightly, her glow pulsing brighter, warning him. He slammed the brakes lightly, the taxi skidding in the wet road, narrowly avoiding a collision with a dark figure that disappeared into an alley. The driver's heart pounded, adrenaline rushing, and he realized that whatever was chasing her was close, moving with precision, knowing their moves. The girl's eyes darted toward the window, her glowing patterns shifting rapidly, as if calculating the next step. She whispered, softly, a sound that was barely audible over the rain. Left. Now? He obeyed immediately, trusting her instinct. Even though the streets were unfamiliar, the narrow lane seemed like a trap, but somehow she knew it was safe. The taxi turned into a deserted industrial district, buildings towering and abandoned, broken windows reflecting the faint neon glow from the city behind. It smelled of wet metal and old machinery, the air thick with tension. The girl's glow illuminated small symbols on the walls, strange markings that flickered briefly before disappearing. The driver leaned forward, trying to understand, but he could not. He only felt the urgency, the danger that had been following them. Their pursuers were silent now, almost invisible. But he knew they were there, waiting for a mistake, a moment of hesitation. She reached into her pouch again, pulling out another crystal, this one larger, more vibrant, and held it above her hands, the light spreading across the cab like liquid. And then, something incredible happened. The light extended outside, creating a soft barrier around the taxi. Faint, shimmering, like a protective shield, the driver gasped. He had no idea how it worked, but he felt the danger lessen. The shadows outside seemed to pause, unsure, hesitant, and then retreated, at least for the moment. The girl smiled faintly, a brief, almost shy curve of her lips, and for the first time she seemed relaxed, though her eyes still darted to the windows, still alert. Who? What are they? The driver asked cautiously, his voice low, not wanting to startle her. She looked at him, glowing softly, and touched his arm gently, a calming gesture. She could not speak his words, but he understood her meaning. These creatures, or people, were not ordinary. They wanted something from her, something precious, something that could not be bought or sold. The crystals, perhaps, or the secrets she carried within her. The driver swallowed hard, realizing that he was part of a story bigger than himself. A story where humans were only beginning to understand the strange and dangerous universe around them. The taxi moved deeper into the industrial district, streets twisting and turning like a labyrinth. The girl's glow lighting the path ahead, her hands moving in silent communication with the crystals, forming patterns in the air, guiding the vehicle safely. Shadows flitted across broken walls, faint shapes that made the driver tense with every heartbeat. He felt the weight of the night, the city pressing down with secrets and the girl beside him. A mixture of innocence and power seemed like a beacon, a guide, and a mystery all at once. He realized that their journey was not just about escape. It was about discovery, understanding, and trust. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from behind. Crash, metallic and sharp. The girl stiffened, glowing brighter, her patterns now swirling in rapid motion, warning him. Faster! Her voice a whisper, urgent. The taxi accelerated, tires spraying water in long arcs, and as they turned a corner, the city seemed to change. The buildings older, darker, shadows thicker, the rain falling harder now, masking their movement, hiding them from the world. And yet, the feeling of being watched remained, constant, almost tangible. She turned to him, eyes glowing, and made a small gesture, placing a hand over her chest, then extending it toward him, a silent promise, a request. The crystals in her pouch shimmering as if in agreement, he understood without words. She was offering him more than payment, more than trust. She was offering connection, an alliance, and he felt the responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. The night was far from over. The danger was not gone, but they had each other now, a human and an alien, bound together by fate and necessity. And as the taxi moved forward into the deeper, darker streets, both of them knew that secrets awaited, challenges loomed, and the night held more mysteries than either of them could imagine. The taxi slowed as it approached a section of the city that felt abandoned, the streets narrower, walls crumbling, graffiti covering every surface. The rain had lessened, leaving the ground slick and shining. The alien girl's glow pulsed softly, almost guiding the driver. She leaned forward, her small hand pointing toward a rusty, half-hidden door at the end of a narrow alley. The driver hesitated, uncertainty twisting in his stomach. He had no idea what lay beyond. The alley smelled of wet metal and oil, and every sound echoed eerily. The girl's patterns shimmered brighter, urging him to continue, a silent command that carried both urgency and trust. As they turned into the alley, shadows seemed to shift around them, the glow from her hands illuminating hidden shapes, crates, and broken machinery stacked haphazardly. The taxi's tires splashed over small puddles, the sound loud in the empty space. The girl's eyes darted to every corner, scanning, calculating. The driver could feel her tension even though she tried to appear calm. And then, finally, they reached the door, half obscured by rust and old wires. She gestured for him to stop, her hand hovering over her pouch, another crystal glowing softly, as if sensing the danger ahead. The driver climbed out carefully, the rain still dripping from the roof, his shoes splashing in shallow puddles. The girl followed, stepping lightly, almost floating above the ground, the glow from her skin casting strange, flickering light across the alley. Together they approached the door. The girl pressed a crystal against the rusted metal, and instantly, a faint hum filled the air. The lock clicked, opening silently, as if the building itself recognized her presence. The driver's jaw dropped slightly. He had never seen anything like this. The city held mysteries he could not have imagined. And the girl, fragile yet powerful, led him inside. The warehouse was vast, dark, filled with towering stacks of crates, abandoned machinery, and long-forgotten tools. Shafts of light broke through the broken roof, dust floating in the beams. The alien girl's glow was the only steady source of light, casting long shadows that danced across the walls. The driver's heart raced. Every sound seemed amplified. The creak of metal, the dripping of water, the hum of distant electricity. He felt like they had entered a world that existed outside time, and he wondered what secrets the girl was keeping here. What danger had brought them to this hidden place? She led him to a small platform at the center of the warehouse, raising, her hands the crystals vibrating softly, and a holographic map projected into the air, faint but detailed, showing routes, hidden passages, and dangerous zones where pursuers might be waiting. The driver leaned forward, studying the map, trying to understand, but the symbols were alien, unfamiliar, yet somehow the girl's movements made it clear what he needed to do. It was a plan, a strategy, a way to survive, and he felt both awe and fear, realizing how much responsibility was now on his shoulders. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the far end of the warehouse, metal scraping against metal, slow, deliberate, sending a shiver down the driver's spine. The girl's glow flared brightly, warning him, her hands moving quickly, forming patterns in the air, and then a figure emerged from the shadows, humanoid but distorted, tall and thin, moving with unnatural grace. The driver's heart pounded, and he realized they had been followed. The alien girl's eyes narrowed, her glow intensifying, patterns swirling in complex designs that he could feel vibrating in his chest. She was preparing, ready to protect herself and him. The figure paused, tilting its head, studying them, and then, without warning, advanced. The driver stepped back instinctively, bumping into a crate, and the girl's hand shot out, a crystal levitating above her palm, light shooting forward like a beam, striking the figure, forcing it to pause, shadows twisting around it, retreating for a moment. "Giving them time," she whispered urgently, words he could not understand, but her meaning was clear. "We must move now." She grabbed his arm, guiding him toward a hidden side door. The warehouse seemed alive with every step, the shadows shifting, the danger relentless. They reached the door, slipping through it silently, emerging into another alley, narrow and dark. The city beyond faintly visible, neon lights flickering in the distance. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets misty and quiet. The girl's glow dimmed slightly, signaling temporary safety. The driver exhaled, adrenaline slowly leaving his body. But he knew they were not safe yet. The night was far from over, and the dangers that hunted her were still out there, watching, waiting for a mistake. He looked at her, eyes wide with both fear and wonder, and realized that this journey was more than a ride. It was survival, trust, and a discovery of worlds he had never imagined. The girl turned to him, offering another crystal, her glowing patterns soft and inviting, a silent gesture of thanks, of alliance, of promise. The driver accepted it, feeling warmth spread through his chest, a strange connection forming, a bond that went beyond words. The night stretched ahead, full of mysteries, secrets, and unseen dangers, yet in that moment, he knew that they could face it together, the human and the alien, bound by fate, by trust, and by the glowing light of something extraordinary. And as they disappeared into the misty streets, the warehouse behind them fading into shadow, suspense lingered in the air, the city waiting, watching, and the adventure far from over. The mist hung low over the streets, curling around abandoned cars and broken signs. The taxi parked in a narrow alley, engine still running, its headlights slicing through the fog like sharp blades. The alien girl's glow pulsed softly, her hands moving in careful gestures, guiding the driver. The patterns on her skin flickered rapidly, warning him that danger was closer than ever. He felt a chill run down his spine, every sense alert, every shadow a potential threat. The city seemed alive with eyes, silent watchers hidden in every corner. "They are near," she whispered, her voice low, almost melodic, yet carrying an urgent edge. The driver nodded, gripping the steering wheel tightly, his heart hammering. He could feel her tension radiating. It was contagious. He had never felt such a strange mixture of fear and determination, the kind that made every second stretch, every movement heavy with consequence. She reached into her pouch, pulling out a small crystal. Its glow soft but insistent, and she held it aloft, tracing patterns in the air that shimmered like delicate fire, and suddenly the mist itself seemed to respond, twisting, forming vague shapes that hid them from view. A sudden clatter echoed from a side street, metal scraping against metal, sharp and deliberate. The girl stiffened, her glow intensifying. The driver's pulse jumped. He realized that their pursuers were moving closer, silent, efficient, hunting like predators who knew exactly what they wanted. She gestured for him to follow, leading him through a labyrinth of narrow streets, puddles splashing under their feet, reflections of neon lights dancing in the wet asphalt. Each turn felt calculated, each choice a gamble. Yet she moved with confidence, as if the city itself were part of her plan. They ducked behind a stack of abandoned crates, the girl crouching low, her glow dimming to a soft pulse. "Wait," she whispered, her voice tense but steady. The driver pressed against the crates, trying to make himself small, listening, the air thick with anticipation. Distant footsteps echoed, measured, heavy, deliberate, and the shadows moved. Stretching and curling around corners, the figures they had been running from were close, too close. He could feel it in his chest, a pressure that made it hard to breathe. The girl's eyes scanned rapidly, patterns shifting, glowing. A silent code, a signal, a warning. "Now," she said suddenly. And they moved, slipping through narrow alleys and side streets, shadows falling across them like fingers, scraping, searching, yet unable to catch them. The taxi's engine hummed softly in the background, a beacon of safety, yet also a potential trap. The girl's patterns pulsed faster, faster with every step, her glow illuminating symbols on walls, strange, alien markings that seemed to flicker. In recognition of her presence, the driver followed without question, instinct guiding him, trust binding him. He had no choice but to obey, and with each turn, the sense of pursuit grew heavier, more oppressive. They reached a bridge spanning a dark canal, the water below reflecting shards of neon. The girl paused, crouching low, her glow dim. The driver watched, tense, waiting, listening, and then a shadow moved across the bridge, slow, deliberate, measuring them, testing them. She raised a crystal, light shooting forward like a pulse, striking the shadow, making it retreat momentarily. The driver felt a rush of relief, fleeting because he knew it was temporary. The creatures, or people, were persistent, intelligent, patient, and they would not stop until they had what they wanted. The girl gestured, leading him across the bridge, each step measured, cautious, the rain-slick surface slippery. The driver almost slipped, catching himself at the last second, heart racing, and then a loud noise behind them, metal clanging, boots striking concrete. The pursuers had found them, moving faster now, urgency in their rhythm. She increased her glow, light streaming forward, almost blinding. The driver shielded his eyes, and in that light, they saw movement in the shadows, shapes twisting, flitting between broken streetlights, closing in with calculated intent. "Go," she hissed, urgency sharp in her tone, and the driver pushed forward, following her through narrow streets, the city twisting around them, each corner a potential ambush, each alley a chance to escape. And yet, the feeling of being hunted never left, the air thick with tension, every heartbeat loud, every breath heavy. He realized that this night was no longer just about escape. It was about survival, understanding, and trust. The girl beside him, glowing softly, yet radiating power, had become his guide, his protector, and in that moment he understood that they were linked, by fate, by necessity, and by something far greater than either of them could fully comprehend. As they reached a deserted plaza, the girl raised her hand, pattern swirling, a soft hum filling the air, the light forming a protective dome around them, a temporary sanctuary, shadows from the pursuers halting at the edge, unwilling to cross. And for a moment, the city seemed quiet, tense, waiting. The driver looked at her, wide-eyed, awed, realizing that this small, stranded alien girl, who had called a taxi with nothing but a strange offering, was now the reason he was still alive. And yet he knew this calm was fleeting. The pursuit would resume, and the night held even more dangers, mysteries and revelations that neither of them could yet imagine. The plaza was quiet, but the driver knew better. The shadows of the pursuers lingered at the edges, watching, waiting, and the alien girl's glow was a faint heartbeat in the darkness, pulsing softly as she scanned the area, her eyes catching on a barely noticeable grate at the far corner, half hidden under broken tiles and debris. She gestured for the driver to follow, pointing toward it, the patterns on her skin shifting in urgency, a silent code he could feel vibrating in his chest. The city around them seemed to hold its breath, the wind rustling faintly through the empty streets, carrying distant echoes of movement. They approached the grate cautiously, the driver kneeling first to inspect it, rust and dirt caking its edges, making it heavy and stubborn. The girl placed her hand on it, the crystal she carried glowing brightly, and the metal seemed to respond, humming softly, then loosening, almost as if it recognized her presence. She lifted it with ease, revealing a narrow, dark passage below. A forgotten tunnel, damp and smelling of earth and old water, shadows stretching far inside. The driver swallowed, feeling a mixture of fear and anticipation, and she held out her hand, a gentle gesture, urging him to descend, to trust her. He climbed down carefully, the metal ladder cold against his hands, the alien following, her glow illuminating the walls, revealing ancient markings, faded symbols that seemed to tell stories of a long-lost civilization. The driver's eyes widened. He had never seen anything like it. And yet, the girl moved confidently, stepping over puddles and broken stones, her movements fluid, precise, almost otherworldly, as if the tunnel itself knew her, guided her. The driver could feel a strange energy in the air, a vibration that made his teeth tingle, and he realized that this path was not just a way to escape, it was a hidden secret, a sanctuary, a place where the rules of the city above did not apply. The tunnel twisted and turned, narrow in some parts, wide in others, the walls lined with strange pipes and cables, some sparking occasionally, giving brief flashes of light that revealed glimpses of water pooling in shallow areas. The air thick and cool, carrying the faint scent of wet stone and metal. The driver's steps echoed softly, but the girl's glow cut through the darkness, illuminating every corner, guiding him, warning him, protecting him, and the sense of danger lingered, because they both knew the pursuers were still close. Tracking them, patient, relentless, their eyes unseen but always present. They reached a fork in the passage and the girl paused, crouching slightly, her hands tracing patterns in the air, glowing lines forming briefly then disappearing. She seemed to be calculating, choosing. The driver held his breath, waiting, realizing that every choice here could mean survival or capture. Finally, she gestured to the left, leading them down a narrower path. The walls closing in, the air growing heavier, the sound of dripping water louder, and for a moment, the driver's courage wavered, his heart hammering, but her hand rested lightly on his arm, a reassurance, a connection. And he felt strength return, trust forming like an anchor in the darkness. The narrow path opened into a larger chamber, the ceiling arched high, shadows falling across jagged stones and puddles, faint light from cracks. Above filtering down, the girl moved forward, her glow brightening, revealing a series of carved doors hidden old, each with a different symbol etched into the wood. She studied them quickly, her fingers hovering over the carvings, and then, choosing one, she pushed it open, revealing a descending staircase, worn and uneven, leading even deeper. The driver followed, each step echoing, the anticipation building, the thrill of escape mixed with fear of what might lie ahead. Halfway down, a sudden noise made them both freeze, a scraping, deliberate, from the upper tunnel. The pursuers had found the grate and were now searching below, their shadows stretching like fingers along the walls. The girl's glow flared, brightly, patterns swirling around her, and for the first time, the driver saw a look in her eyes, a mix of determination and desperation. She was ready to fight if needed, but she also wanted to protect him, to keep him alive. He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment, realizing that they were not just running. They were moving through a world few humans had ever known, a world hidden beneath the city, alive with secrets and dangers. The staircase ended at another tunnel, lower and tighter, damp walls pressing close, But this path led to a small chamber with an exit that opened into a forgotten courtyard above, ground surrounded by high walls and thick ivy. The driver gasped slightly at the sudden open air, and the girl moved to the edge, looking up at the night sky, her glow softening, signaling a brief reprieve. Yet the sense of urgency remained. The pursuers would not give up easily, and this hidden passage had bought them only temporary safety. The city beyond stretched quietly, unaware of the two fugitives who had slipped beneath its streets carrying secrets, hope, and a strange, unbreakable bond. She turned to him, offering a small crystal, glowing softly, her patterns swirling, a silent message of trust, of gratitude, and of the journey yet to come. The driver accepted it, feeling warmth, courage, and determination flowing through him. The night stretched ahead, full of shadows and mysteries, yet in that moment, they were together, alive, and moving forward. The secret passage had saved them, but the chase was far from over, and the adventure of trust, survival, and discovery would continue. The hidden courtyard was quiet, almost too quiet, the faint moonlight spilling over broken stone walls and tangled ivy. The alien girl's glow shimmered softly, casting intricate patterns on the wet ground. The driver's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the crystal she had given him. He had no idea what it did, but he could feel its warmth, its energy, like it carried hope in its very essence. The air was thick with tension, and every sound, the drip of water, the rustle of leaves, seemed amplified, as if the city above and the darkness below were holding their breath. "We are not safe yet," she whispered, her voice low, melodic, but urgent, her patterns flickering rapidly, signaling caution. She pointed toward the far end of the courtyard, where a low archway led to another street, partially covered by ivy and debris. The driver nodded, understanding the silent urgency. They had escaped the tunnels, but the hunters were still out there, patient, relentless, and intelligent. He glanced at her, realizing for the first time that this small, stranded alien girl had survived more than he ever could imagine, relying on knowledge, instinct, and trust that he was only beginning to comprehend. Suddenly, a shadow moved from the archway, large and deliberate, footsteps echoing softly against the stone. Both of them froze, and the girl's glow pulsed brightly, a warning. The figure stepped into the moonlight, revealing an alien of a different kind, tall, with pale silver skin and eyes that reflected the stars. A warrior of some sort, armed yet not aggressive. He raised his hand slightly, a gesture of peace. The girl's patterns flickered in rapid communication, and she whispered, "They are not with them. Yet." The driver frowned, confused, but felt the weight of trust between them. This stranger, though mysterious, might be an ally. The silver-skinned alien spoke softly, in a tone that seemed to resonate through the air itself. "I know what you are running from, and I can help you." The girl's glow softened, acknowledging, and the driver stepped forward, curiosity mixed with caution. "How do we know we can trust you?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The alien's eyes reflected sincerity. "Because we share the same enemy," he said, and in that instant, the driver realized the danger was larger than either of them had imagined. The pursuers were not just hunters, they were part of something organized, powerful, and cruel, and any chance of survival would require alliances, trust, and courage beyond human measure. The girl gestured for them to follow, leading the driver and the silver-skinned alien through narrow streets and hidden passages. The city seemed to warp around them, alleys twisting, rooftops blending into shadows. The patterns on her skin shifted rapidly, guiding them, warning them, and he felt a strange sense of wonder. This world beneath the familiar streets was alive, intricate, dangerous, and beautiful all at once. They moved swiftly, silently, until they reached a high wall with vines crawling across its surface. The alien warrior extended his hand, and with a small pulse of energy, vines parted, revealing a hidden courtyard filled with other beings, small, glowing, alive, a secret sanctuary hidden from the hunters. The girl approached them, her glow brighter, now patterns swirling. A mixture of relief and anticipation in her eyes, she spoke softly. "We are safe here for now." The driver looked around, awestruck. The aliens in the courtyard watched silently, curious but cautious. Their energy, soft, pulsating, and he realized that this hidden place was a refuge, a place of learning, survival, and planning. The silver-skinned alien nodded toward the group, explaining that these were exiles, refugees, survivors, all hiding from the same relentless hunters, and together they could strategize, plan, and perhaps turn the tables. Hours passed, the city outside unaware of the secret gathering. The driver sat quietly, observing, learning. The alien girl beside him, glowing softly, whispered explanations of the symbols, the patterns, and the network of hidden sanctuaries. The silver-skinned alien detailed the dangers that hunted them, the cruel experiments, the relentless pursuit, and the driver realized how small he was in this vast web of events, yet how vital, because he had offered trust, courage, and humanity, simple human qualities that made a difference where advanced technology and alien powers had failed. A sudden noise outside the sanctuary made them all freeze. The girl's glow pulsed rapidly, signaling alert. The driver's heart raced, yet the silver-skinned warrior motioned for calm. "They are testing us, trying to find our location," he said, "but they will not enter." The girl's pattern shifted, forming a protective barrier of energy, faint but strong, shimmering across the walls, puddles reflecting strange lights. The driver marveled at the alien girl's power, her courage, and the strange alliance that had formed. He realized that survival often required not just strength but understanding, connection, and trust. They spent the night planning, the girl explaining escape routes, safe zones, and the power of the crystal, the warrior teaching combat strategies and the driver contributing with human intuition, ideas, and ingenuity, together forming a bond that crossed species, backgrounds, and expectations. The city outside remained indifferent, lights flickering in high towers, unaware of the alliance being forged in its shadow. And the driver understood that this night, terrifying and uncertain, had changed him forever. He had glimpsed bravery, sacrifice, and the beauty of unexpected alliances. As dawn approached, the first rays of light filtering through cracks in the walls, the alien girl turned to him, her glow softening, pattern slowing. "We will survive," she whispered. The driver nodded, feeling hope, courage, and trust surge within him. And in that moment he realized that survival was more than fleeing, more than hiding. It was standing together, even with the most unexpected allies. Against impossible odds, the hunters would come again. But now, they were ready, united and stronger than ever. The night had ended, but their journey, their fight, and their bond had only just begun.